The Tigers are closing in on Alex Bregman and some new leaders for Anthony Santander, some updates on Roki Sasaki, and more ahead here at the Upside. And welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us on a Monday evening, the day before New Year's Eve. Appreciate y'all making time about 10 o'clock here Central Time. I want to thank every single one of you who have liked and subscribed to our channel over the past couple of weeks. It's been great continuing to continue to grow this channel and grow this community. So if you guys are new here and want to join and enjoy some of the greatest baseball talk you're going to get this entire offseason, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let's get into some of the big headlines. We'll start with Alex Bregman. There is a all-out force right now for the Detroit Tigers to try to get this thing done. They're trying to get everything they possibly can out of this offseason. As far as the contract goes, there still seems to be a little bit of a gap. That's some of the reporting we're getting today. It seems down to two teams, Red Sox and Tigers. We'll see where he ultimately goes. We reported last night that there were some discussions between the Mariners and Red Sox that if a deal did get done with Bregman and the Red Sox, that they could then move on and trade Casas and Yoshida to the Mariners in exchange for Luis Castillo. Those rumors continued today, saying that the two teams are still at least discussing that possibility. So we'll see what happens there, but Bregman is certainly going to be signed at some point this week. We'll see if the Tigers ultimately get that contract offer up to where he would ultimately sign it and go there. They also have their toe right now in the relief market, most notably for Kirby Yates. We've told you guys for the better part of the last week now that Kirby Yates was probably going to be the top guy signed, or the first guy signed off the relief market. Why? Because there was more urgency around his name than some of the others that are out there, most notably Tanner Scott. Yates has suitors in the Texas Rangers, the Detroit Tigers, the Chicago Cubs, and the Arizona Diamondbacks, as well as a few other teams as well. But Kirby Yates, with the Rangers really pushing forward and trying to make him a priority to be able to bring him back right now, the money has to be getting there. And you just saw the Arizona Diamondbacks just spend $210 million over 6 years to bring in Corbin Burnes. They're not just going to stop there, you'd think, at least, and not address their bullpen. So the money has to be getting there, or at least close for Kirby Yates to sign. We'll see how close it gets to being done around New Year's. Appreciate you guys joining us. Welcome in Holly, Tato, Liberty, Roy, Ethan. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll get into some of the other headlines here in just a moment. Go Dodgers. Ethan, I'm ready for some major Rangers news. That's kind of what I think we're all waiting for as Rangers fans. What's happening with the Roki Sasaki, of course, on one hand, and what's happening in the bullpen on the other. Hey, welcome in, Holly. Tato, give me Yates and Martin, and I'll be happy. Honestly, as a Ranger fan, at this point, I think that would kind of be the cherry on top of this offseason to finish off that bullpen. Liberty, Santander, excuse me, would be so great. Would be great going to the Angels. Okay. As far as a fit for the Angels, I just don't see it. Let me kind of preface this conversation here. What's the one thing we saw the Angels do time and time again over the last 15 years? Successfully or not? That's always add a major offseason bat at some point or another. You go all the way back to the days where they bring in Albert Pujols and they bring in a pitcher in C.J. Wilson to, kind of keep that thing going. You can go back to the time when they bring in Josh Hamilton, Anthony Rendon. They go out there and spend the money on all these guys, and what has it gotten them? Has it gotten them into the postseason when they had arguably two of the three greatest players in Major League Baseball at the time, in Shohei and Mike Trout, when Shohei first came over? It didn't get them even into the playoffs. My question is, how wise is it for them to really go after Santander? I get the issues that they have in their outfield. I'm not saying that they don't have them. But they've continued to try to do this by patching holes, by spending money. For a big bat, yes, but is this a difference-making bat for the Angels? Is this a bat that's going to bring in, say, the cachet of Shohei Ohtani? Remember, they just had him a year ago, and they couldn't sniff the postseason. Their roster at this point is worse. They're still young, trying to grow, and now you're going to bring in a guy for, say, 5 years at $20 million, and you're going to point to him and say, hey, he's going to be, the consummate professional on this team, an example for which, the young guys can look to and where they can grow and what they can really learn, a guy they can really learn from. Maybe, okay, but you're telling me it's worth $20 million over 5 years to be able to get that guy in your clubhouse? I would rather go for a one-year guy, a one-year deal with, say, $4-5 million guaranteed. There's tons of players that fit that bill and don't completely squander the money on some additions that you could make later on to the pitching staff, or maybe even Santander is not going to be as good in, say, 3 or 4 or 5 years on the back end of that deal. And you're not exactly expected to win this year. So I don't get the urgency for them to be in the market for Santander. That was one of the more bizarre headlines there. There was a few other teams in there for Santander, one of which, of course, was the Toronto Blue Jays. No surprise. The Houston Astros had kicked the tires on him as well. It seems like until they move Ryan Pressly, they're kind of stuck with the money issue. If they move Pressly, I'd imagine they then revisit the idea of Santander, but it sounds like they may go a little bit cheaper in their outfield. But again, as far as Santander to the Angels, I just don't understand the wisdom there. As much as he might be an improvement over what they have, and he might, help raise the floor for them from, say, 60 to 65 wins or 65 to 70 wins. I still don't think they sniff the wild card. I don't think they get anywhere close to winning the division, and they darn sure are not winning the American League, let alone the World Series. So, for Angels fans, as much as this might give you hope that, hey, they're turning it around, they're getting some good players in there, something to build on, building blocks, this is all good, right? No, I'm not buying it. It's way too early. I thought the Kikuchi contract was way too much money at this time. Same thing here with Santander if they do bring him in. I'm really hoping, they kind of let cooler heads prevail and let him go to the high bidder in this process, which should be the Toronto Blue Jays, and not spend the money over 5 years on a guy who's not going to be there when you're there to compete once again. They do not need to stunt their outfield growth by bringing somebody in who's going to take at bats away from somebody else in the minor leagues who needs that experience at the major league level. I just don't like that idea at all. I don't understand why they're even discussing this idea, honestly. I get it. You want to have a better team. I get it, Moreno. You want to win. You tried that with Shohei Ohtani. Is Ohtani and Santander a comparable type of player? Are they anywhere near the same level of impact performer? And Trout is on the back nine of his career. Injuries, poor performance have started to creep into his game. He is no longer one of the top 3 players in the entire sport. He might be a top 50 guy when he's healthy, but that's fewer and farther between these days than it ever has been. Again, I ask you guys who are Angels fans, why would you want to make this move? Yes, it does improve the floor of your roster for this season, for next season, for the year after that. And yes, it does bring up everything else. I get that might be the reason why you think it's a good idea. But in the long run, in the plan to make this team a contending team, to make a wild card run, to win the division, is this the move that pushes you over the top? Is this the move that kind of, gets this thing rolling on the right track here? Do you have a wealth of prospects from which that you're hoping this is the galvanizing force to get you going in the right direction? I just don't see it. I was very hard on the Angels when they kind of went about their Shohei Ohtani thing. And this speaks very similarly to that situation for me. They completely mishandled how they were able to build a team around Trout and Ohtani in the beginning of his career. Towards the end of his career, when they realized he was probably going to be leaving for the Dodgers. And even before that, when they realized he's going to be going to free agency and probably not going to re-sign there because they hadn't even been able to get to a postseason with him on their roster. They completely mismanaged that entire organization. Organizational malpractice is what I called it at the very end of that Angels tenure when they chose to shove all their chips to the center, where Perry Manassian should have gone to the owner and said, hey, look, I get you want to win, but the long-term decision, the future of this club, the betterment of your franchise, what you're paying all of us to be here for, to look after your team, everything is telling me to trade away Shohei. Even now, with a couple of months left in the season, I could still get you a Juan Soto-like package that the Padres got in exchange for Juan Soto. And instead, they double down and bring in some expiring deals that are expiring contracts to try to make one last run for a postseason series. Did it work? You pushed all your chips to the center. Did it even last 3 weeks? No. They said, oh, I guess we were wrong. Let's try to save as much money as we can, and allowed all those guys to be passed through waivers to try to get underneath some tax thresholds. That's what happened the last time the Angels tried to do this. Did they not learn their lesson? I'm very hard on the Angels for this because, again, this speaks to the same issues that they've continued to have as an organization. And I just don't understand the wisdom here. Maybe you guys that are Angels fans might be able to set me right and tell me why this is a good move for the organization. What galvanizing force Santander is going to be better than Shohei Ohtani. I just don't see it, and I don't think it's going to happen. Again, organizational malpractice is what they did with Shohei Ohtani's last year there, and this smacks exactly of the same thing. Pushing their chips to the center when they have no business doing so. I get it. The American League is a jump ball right now. But you aren't even in the conversation. You're not even on the court to win that jump ball. And you're not even close to getting in the arena to get on the court to win the jump ball. Maybe this gets you a seat in the stands as you watch the rest of the team jump, or the rest of the teams vie for the World Series. But you certainly aren't winning it. You certainly aren't winning a series. You certainly aren't winning the division. And you certainly aren't you're not getting a wild card berth out of this. So I'll kind of put pause on my conversation for the Angels right there, but I just don't see it. I don't see the wisdom, and I'm going to continue to harp on this point until the Angels at least come to their senses. I really hope they don't get it done. I hope this is just somebody's poor reporting, but it doesn't seem like it is. It sounds like something the Angels would do, and honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if they did it. For Angels fans, I just hope they don't. I think you're going to continue to have the same false hope that you were given the entire time while Shohei Ohtani was there. And, oh yeah, he has a chance to re-sign. He loves it here with the Angels. He loves playing with Mike Trout. He would never want to leave for a crosstown rival Dodgers. Please. All right. Let's move on to some of the other, comments here in our chat. Really want to catch up on a few of these things. Roy Kimball are the Angels' favorite for Santander. They're in there for him, certainly, along with the Blue Jays. Going to miss quite a few of these comments, so I apologize if I missed your comment. That was kind of a long chat on the Angels there. But if you want to make sure I catch on your comment, make sure you guys send it to me again. I'd try to catch up on some of these guys. Let's see here. Cowboys Nation switch hitter that hits for power and isn't terrible. Defensively overrated. Come on, champ. Easy on Tony Tater. I mean, he's a good player. I'm not saying he's Shohei Ohtani, though. And they couldn't get to the postseason with Shohei Ohtani. And they have a worse team. That's my point. Artie didn't give Ohtani the bag because Artie don't spend on starting pitching. He's tried to spend on some starting pitching. Has he spent the bag on a number one starter in the free agent market? Not really. C.J. Wilson kind of speaks as one of the best starters he's really brought in. He was more of a number two at that time. Not exactly a great position for starting pitching. They usually go with guys that are one-year reclamation projects. Syndergaard comes to mind. There's a few others that popped into my head. What was the other one? Dylan Bundy popped into my head as well. Those are the free agent starting pitchers the Angels are famous for bringing in. Let's see here. Cowboys Nation, who is our next coach? No one reputable until Jerry retires. Honestly, I think they're going to bring in a disciplinarian. Could be anyone from a kind of a Belichick Vrabel type of coach, but I do think they're going to go in a different direction than Mike McCarthy. Roy, you mean goes Jimmy Carter way? Jimmy Carter did pass away, unfortunately. He passed away, I believe, yesterday. It was just anytime you see somebody pass, it's always tough. Ricky passed this past week as well. A few other leaders from around the world also passed, and you always wish their family the best. We have really no business to, say one way or the other as to, the value of the man. But we can recognize that they had value to others in their lives, whether you agreed with their positions or not. But the fact of the matter is, a person lost his life. And Jimmy Carter deserves to be respected in such a way, just like Ricky Henderson and all the others that are out there. I've been hearing some comments out there about negativity about some of these guys, and I'm like, come on now. We're talking about a human being. All right, exactly. I don't want to be... let's see here. Cowboys Nation sad we got smacked last season in the first round. and don't address one of the biggest reasons coming into the season. Jerry isn't worried about a championship; he just sells it like he does TV deals. I think the big issue for the Cowboys, honestly, was Dak Prescott. I think it was a complete mistake to give him that deal, and there might be an escape hatch though if they can find a taker for his contract. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys visited the idea of trading him away. But it's Jerry Jones. He's one of Jerry's boys, and he's not going to trade him away as long as he's the GM. Roy, is the AL West weaker? The AL overall is weak. The weakest division to me, let's see, I'd probably say the NL West is pretty darn strong right now. AL East is always up there. NL East has been pretty good as of late. Right now, I'd say the weakest division, probably the NL Central, just because I think every one of those teams is a 500 team or worse. Maybe a couple games above, maybe a couple games below. Do I think they're all bad teams? No, I think there's too many teams in each division to really say there's a horrible division. But some divisions are weaker than others. For instance, the NL East has two poor teams in it. The AL West has two poor teams in it. But in general, I would say the Rangers and the Astros are the class of the division. Mariners have a chance if they add some offense. Meanwhile, the NL Central has four decent teams in it and one that's going to be going through a rebuild. So nobody that you can really pin your hopes on for carrying that division at the outset of the season. The AL Central was the weakest division for years, but they've gotten some really good strides out of the Tigers and Royals. Guardians are still very good. White Sox are terrible, and Twins are trending that way. So I'd say the NL Central, just because they don't have a top dog, really. And then probably the second division, I'd probably say, is the AL Central, just because I don't think there's a World Series champion in that mix. I think they've got some good teams in there, but if they say Bregman goes to the Tigers, I'd probably revisit that conversation as well. Going off on the Angels, exactly, Tato. Angels make it easy. They make themselves an easy target the way they continue to operate. Let's see here. Let's see. Not to mention we need a winning, reliable quarterback. That's what we were talking about with Prescott. I don't think it's right to move. I don't think it's the right move to sign Santander. Just know Artie will spend them on what doesn't make sense. So let him spend. Yeah, but I mean, if you're an Angels fan, even as a baseball fan in general, I still want to see other teams make smart moves. I want to see baseball being played at the best of its ability. And when you have one team acting like a drunk sailor, doesn't exactly bode well for the rest of baseball. And I'm not saying that's what the Angels are doing, but they've done really poor things from a decision-making standpoint for the last 5-6 years now, going back even further than that. And it's just time that somebody goes to the Angels and says, hey, you awake in there? Because some of these decisions just are completely off the wall and just do not make sense. The signing of Kikuchi, yes, you needed a starting pitcher, but you're going to pay him max value. You can't trade him. You're going to point to him and say, hey, he's our ace. He's going to be the guy we point to and be our a win day pitcher. He's not that guy. He's at best a number 3, 4 type starter on a competitive team. On your team, you're paying him max value so that if you do have to trade him, or if you do want to recoup some value, you're going to have to eat some money in order to make him worth it for another team to bring him in. I don't like the move they did there. And then you look at the Angels, what they did during Shohei Ohtani's entire tenure just was not a smart decision, pretty much from top to bottom there, especially at the very end. I just have no faith in that owner or in that front office now. I love Ron Washington as a manager. Absolutely love him. I like some of the additions that they've made. Travis d'Arnaud behind the plate, giving them a good, qualified catcher with Ohapi and d'Arnaud to handle a young pitching staff. Then you go out there and bring in Kikuchi. Why? The signing of Hendricks makes more sense because it's a one-year deal. If it works out, great, you flip him for pieces at the deadline. If it doesn't, oh well, you cut him at the deadline and you bring up some young guys and allow that veteran presence in the first half of the season to help mentor some of those young pitchers. You're turning over your roster a little bit in that pitching staff with Patrick Sandoval out, Griffin Canning out. You bring in Hendricks, you bring in Kikuchi. I get it, you had a hole there, but I would have gone more cheaper on that in the starting pitcher market. Lucas, I don't know why people are saying the AL West is bad. Former and future world champions are in there. Honestly, I would agree there. You look at the Astros, they were the class of the American League for 7 years? Rangers win a World Series, Astros have won a World Series. But I get how they would say the bottom half of that division was pretty poor last year. Rangers honestly didn't have a great season last year. They got to prove it on the field. But I would say I understand why some fans are claiming it's one of the worst divisions. Would I say it's the worst? Probably not. Owen, where is Jurickson Profar going, do you think? In my mind, I still think he's going to go to the Padres, but there is a few teams that make some sense out there. Looking at the Braves, the Astros, the Rangers before they added Jock Peterson, if they're able to offload a guy like Leody Taveras, maybe there's a deal that could be made there. Or Ezekiel Duran, honestly, as a Ranger fan and a huge Profar fan, I would love to see him back in a Rangers uniform. I think the chances of that happening, though, are goose egg. Other teams that need an offensive punch in their outfield could look at Jurickson Profar on a 2 or a 3 year deal around $9 to $12 million. But we'll see what happens. Welcome in, Hirsch. Appreciate you joining us. San Francisco Giants, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Our Alonso wishes nothing but wishes. I would say their conversations are very real at this point. Welcome in, Robert. Appreciate you joining us. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Really would like to kind of continue to grow this channel. Gained almost 500 subscribers in the last 3 weeks alone during our winter meetings coverage. We're going to be live every single night, bringing you the latest from MLB's Hot Stove and during the season as well. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Follow us on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. But to your question about Alonso, I think the Mets are still the prohibitive favorites there. I think the Giants' interest is very real. I wouldn't do it just from a long-term contract perspective. I think Alonso's really going to deteriorate in years 3, 4, and 5 of that deal. And they have a good first base prospect coming. I think a 1-year deal with Rizzo makes more sense. And they could go after Vlad Guerrero Jr. next offseason rather than give up pieces in trade. But it sounds like they're trying to bring in a big-time bat to that lineup. The 2 reasons why it makes sense. 1, power. They have not had somebody of Barry Bonds' level as far as power until they bring in somebody like a Pete Alonso. The second reason is that it completely removes the stench of Farhan Zaidi and his tenure there with the Giants. You turn the page, bring in Buster Posey. You successfully bring in Willy Adames, 7 years, 182. I think it's already been a good offseason for them, but it sounds like they want a resounding bell to ring in all free agents' heads going forward. Hey, we are a different team. We're here trying to convince you to join our team, and we can build this thing right now. We're not waiting for another free agent to come in and something that might be better down the road. We're getting you here now, and we're going to build this team now. That's the only reason how it would make sense to me for the Giants, but still, I would pass, go for the 1-year guy. Like I predicted they would go after a Paul Goldschmidt. Yankees ultimately get him. I think Rizzo would make the most sense on the free agent market right now. We'll see what happens. Got quite a few guys in the chat right now. Giants not even Flower Girl. I still think the Mets are going to be the team for Alonso, though. Pretty cold, including I want to go to Vegas or to Paris for New Year's Eve. There's a train in 2 hours. Let's see if that gets delayed. Well, I'm hoping you get where you want to go for New Year's there, Lucas. I know you were on a 7-hour train ride yesterday, so I hope you travel safe. Arif, welcome in. Profar, possible fit for Toronto. Again, they do need some additions this offseason, and Profar is looking for the bag. So if Toronto is the team for it, then I think he would go there. Roy, Profar can play infield and outfield, came in as a shortstop. Exactly. That's kind of where I kind of first got to meet him. I mean, came up as a shortstop within the Rangers organization. Way overvalued based on how the Rangers really marketed him as a trade asset. But he was always a good prospect. Was he ever the real number 1 prospect in Major League Baseball? Well, if you ask MLB.com, yes. But if you ask the people who knew and saw him play and weren't hiding him, or the way the Rangers were hiding him away from the media and from scouts, they would say he was a really good prospect, but there were others at the time who were considerably better. And so, the Rangers learned their lesson there. But Profar is still a very good player. Really evolved in his time since leaving Texas and has turned himself into quite the leadoff hitter as well. Abraham, should the Mariners also add Haniger in the Casas and Yoshida trade? Possibly. That's kind of another small piece there, but for me, I think the Mariners are just trying to include some offense however they can get it, whether it be taking on the contract of Yoshida to get the deal with Casas there. I would like to see them make some significant improvements to that lineup. Like I told you guys at the beginning of the offseason, until the Mariners address the needs on their offense, in their offensive side of things, I don't think they're a postseason team. I don't think they win a wild card spot. I think they're going to be, hey, we're a nice story. We finish a couple games out again. Let's hope our GM can get us a bat in the offseason. And until they actually do so, I think they're going to miss out on making the postseason. So we'll see what they add. Justin, welcome in. Do you see the D-backs trading Jordan Montgomery? Yes. Jordan Lawler? No. Montgomery, I think, is very likely to be traded at this point. D-backs GM basically said, we're open to all things, but right now we're just listening. We're not actively looking to shop anybody. Bull. Everybody and their mother knows that Montgomery wants to be out of that situation after the owner lambasted him towards the end of last year. And I think he'd be a great fit somewhere else as long as the trade happens before spring training. Last thing this guy needs is to go into another offseason with poor training with that new team he's going to. Getting a full offseason in of rest, recovery, and getting a full spring training with his new team is what he needs. And I would hope that the Arizona Diamondbacks, as much as they don't like the deal that they agreed to themselves with the free agent starting pitcher, they still have to do right by the guy and right by their own organization by letting him go elsewhere and recouping some value in return. Let's see here. Roy, Toronto is the Giants of the AL. Court everyone and walk away with nothing. I kind of agree there. They're turning into that. So we'll see what they ultimately walk away with during free agency. They miss on Burns. Looks like they're going to miss on Bregman. But they're going to be going through a tough retool, rebuild phase over the next few years. Lucas, I think the Rangers, the future World Series champions, still need a 2-3 type starter. That could be Roki Sasaki. We got a ton of news on Sasaki today, so let's go ahead and pivot to that next news item today. The agent, Joel Wolf, anyway, was speaking with reporters today, saying that Sasaki is now back in Japan. He's being very methodical with how he's handling his courtship with these other teams. Sounds like 20 teams reached out to Sasaki's agent about the possibility of having him join there. He did not give up how many teams ultimately have met with them, but did say it was quite a few of them. No players were allowed in the meetings with Sasaki while he was here. That teams did bring video messages from some of the players. Makes some sense to at least show that there is some interest from the team to have him there in addition to the front office and the management staff there. But no players were allowed in those meetings. So even though Ohtani and Yamamoto were his teammates on the World Baseball Classic, wasn't exactly helpful in the meeting with the LA Dodgers. This tells me that it's going to be a fairly even process, even considering that the Dodgers are still probably the favorite in this. He said that basically clarified some comments as far as the media market, said that while it is a factor, same thing we've been talking about, that it's not going to be the deciding factor. Just because you're a big market doesn't mean you're immediately crossed off the list. It's just going to be one of the many things he takes into account when considering where he will sign. But that's kind of the update on Roki Sasaki back in Japan. Going to take a little bit. The way this the process sounds like it's going to go, you submit your pitch, which is basically, hey, we're interested in your free agent. We would like to set up a meeting. The meeting is set up. The player, or you're allowed to go to him to be able to talk about what you would be able to do for him, how he would look in your rotation, how you're going to make him a better pitcher, what the future holds for your team, salary, how are you going to continue to add and build, all those types of things. Then you're going to be narrowed down to a few more teams that are just, probably the 4 or 5 final contestants there, if you will. And then he's going to travel to those cities and kind of, get to know the city, get to know the team, the facilities, all those kinds of things. And then that list could be narrowed down again and another visit could take place. But then he'll make his final decision. Again, he will not sign that deal until January 15th through the 23rd. Joel Wolf clarified another thing as well. The reason why he's not waiting 2 more years and getting $200 million more to sign at that point is because he wants to be the greatest, one of the greatest to ever play baseball. Not just, one of the greats, not just a guy who got a lot of money. He wants to be one of the greatest, and that's what Shohei wanted to do when he came over. I imagine he sees a lot of himself in Shohei when he first came over, and I think he would like to replicate that. So we'll see where Sasaki goes. I still think the Dodgers are the prohibitive favorite, but you can't rule out a lot of these other teams like the Padres, the Mariners, Giants, Rangers, Cubs, Mets, Yankees, and others. Welcome in, Clint. Appreciate you joining us. First time I think I've seen you in our chat. If you are new here, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Would really appreciate that if you wouldn't mind doing so. We're very close to hitting some of our numbers for the year. When we started our video, I think we only needed 1 subscriber to reach our end of year goal. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe, we would greatly appreciate it. Big Met fan, I'd rather see these young kids, Beatty, Mauricio, and Acuna play along with the 2.5 stars, Soto, Lindor, and Nimmo. I understand that sentiment, though, from you, Clint. I would like to see those young guys get a chance, But this is a team that's trying to push to win a World Series this season. Now, if they have a role on this team already, say you want to give Acuna 162 games this year and just see what he's got. If you think he can handle it, by all means, let him do so. But I would make sure that he earns that spot on the roster. I would not just say, hey, we got him locked up at third base, we got him locked up at second, let's go ahead and roll it out there and we'll deal with those rookie struggles and hope for the best. I don't think that's the best way that the Mets could operate to try to win a World Series, and I don't think that's the way they are going to operate. I still think they're going to add some more pieces, most notably at first base, Pete Alonso. I still expect that move, and in their bullpen. There is some possibility that they could do a stack of Bregman and Alonso, or some other third baseman like Correa or Arenado. All those are irons that are at the disposal right now for the New York Mets. Do I think they ultimately choose one of those third basemen? Probably not. I think they will have one of those younger guys over there at third base, with Vientos probably as your DH and Alonso at first, and maybe a guy like David Robertson in there as your eighth inning guy. But I still think they're looking to upgrade that roster more than just allowing those young guys to just take the ball and run with it at the major league level. They want to make sure they earn it. Arif, Bassett, or Barrios possible fit for Texas? I would say no to both of those guys, primarily because the Rangers, I think they like their rotation, the pieces that they already have, about the same as what those new pieces would possibly mean to Texas. Now, if Barrios is able to limit the home run ball, that contract could really be worth something if he's able to get back to what we saw with the Minnesota Twins. He hasn't really been that pitcher since he's come to the Toronto Blue Jays. Home runs have been an issue. Strikeouts are still good. ERA has been a little bit of an issue as well. And I think if he's able to correct those things, the Blue Jays could really have something there. Bassett, though, I don't think he really moves the needle for Texas. You're looking at a rotation that has DeGrom, Eovaldi, 1 and 2. Your 3 is probably John Gray. Your 4 is Tyler Mahle. Your 5 is Kumar Rocker. Your 6 is Jack Leiter. Your 7 is Bradford. Your 8 is Dunning. I'm not sure where Bassett fits in. If you have an injury with Mahle or DeGrom or Gray or one of those young guys doesn't pony up, then I think he'd be an asset to the Rangers. But as it stands right now, I don't think there's a significant upgrade there. The one significant upgrade that's still out there on the market, in my mind, is Roki Sasaki. The one free agent arm they could still look at is bringing back Andrew Heaney. Why? Because they absolutely love his stuff. They really used him in the postseason, and they showed why they really valued him. That spin rate really plays. They really liked having him in their rotation rather than a Dane Dunning. So if push comes to shove, and they still have a little bit of money left over, say they bring Kirby Yates in and Chris Martin and still have, say, $10 million left because they backload the deal of Kirby Yates. Maybe they'd go out there and bring in Andrew Heaney at that point, but I don't really see them doing something like that unless push came to shove and there was a serious opportunity that they just had to jump on. Cowboys Nation, I'm still wanting Elias to get us out of this pitching hole he's gotten us into. I've worked so many trades, and I just don't see how we can come out of on top of any trade at this point. Honestly, as an Orioles fan, I would pretty much be in the same boat if I were in your shoes. I mean, you continue to make trade after trade. The one you start with Jack Flaherty, ultimately it doesn't work out, so be it, he leaves in free agency. Then you go right back to that same well for 1 year left of Corbin Burns and say, he's definitely going to free agency. We know what his cost is likely to be once he gets there. We have to be comfortable with those free agent dollars. But wait, we're not, and we let him walk. He goes to Arizona 1 year later, and now you're left looking for a number one starter at this point. The names we continue to hear about before the season look like Luis Castillo, Dylan Cease, players of that ilk on the trade market. Then if we get to the trade deadline, that's when I think, the real things start to open up. A Sandy Alcantara, a Pablo Lopez could become available for them. So I wouldn't say all is lost for the Orioles, but they certainly need to do better as far as acquiring some starting pitchers and retaining those starting pitchers. For instance, if they bring in Dylan Cease, the same thing could happen all over again. If you guys joined my live right when we first started, I went on quite a bit of a rant on the Los Angeles Angels and how once again it looks like they're mismanaging that team. I really was hard on them with the Shohei Ohtani thing. I continue to be hard on them today with the Santander. The Orioles, they're starting to draw my ire as well with the way they've been able to handle their pitching or their lack thereof, their ability to handle some pitching there. They need a number one at the head of that rotation and have yet to address it. I think they will. I think they'll add somebody. Framber Valdez is another name to keep an eye on if they don't get an extension done. Same thing goes with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and even though I don't think there'll be a move there outside of Jordan Montgomery, even with Gallen and Kelly, both free agents at the end of the year, I don't think they'll move them. I think they want to utilize that starting pitching as a real asset. but the Orioles certainly have a hill to climb out of right now, and we'll see what they do. Elias has a lot of chips at his disposal. Ownership says they're willing to spend on a free agent starting pitcher, but Elias says no. We're a small market team. I have a certain amount of dollars that you budgeted for me to spend on this team. Even if you want me to add a starting pitcher, that's my entire allotment for salaries that I could bring in. And he didn't make the choice to go after Corbin Burnes. So be it. You chose to save your money. Where are you going to invest that money? That's better than the alternative of bringing in Corbin Burnes. I get it. You're a small market team. Your biggest contract ever is Chris Davis, 7 for 161. It didn't work out. You're a small market team. Budget matters. I get it. But right now you have a roster that consists of cheap pre-arbitration salaries. Adley Rutschman is behind the plate as one of the aces in all of baseball. Catching offense is down across the entire sport, and yet you have a trump card on your team with Adley Rutschman and his offensive production behind the plate, and still have great options at first and DH because he can do it behind the plate. Why are we not investing the free agent dollars? You go out there and bring in Tyler O'Neill because the thought process there is, at least we're not spending $100 million on Santander. So be it. Where are you going to use that savings? Where are you using the money that you're saving on Corbin Burnes? Where are you going to utilize those dollars? They bring in Sugano. He's kind of their quote-unquote wild card of the offseason. Could be as low as number 4 in their rotation. Could be as high as a number 2. But he signed for 1 year, $13 million. If things even work out, you're talking bigger bucks next offseason on a short-term deal. I get it. But it's still a 1-year deal. You don't have a number 1 in that staff. Sugano, if things work out, is probably a number 2. Most likely right now, I'd say Game 1 starter, probably Zach Eflin. Game 2, Grayson Rodriguez. Game 3, Sugano. Does that exactly inspire fear in any of these other American League lineups? I would say not. For instance, the Rangers feasted off of that in the postseason, as did several other teams once they finally got to October. They're a great 162 team with that offense. The rotation is good enough for them to be able to win 95, 100 games during the regular season. But when it counts, when it matters most, that pitching staff is going to fail them, and they do have a closer coming back from injury as well. I think they still need to add some more bullpen help as well, but that's kind of where we are at with the Baltimore Orioles. Roki Sasaki, the Angels in their pursuit of Santander, the Tigers in their pursuit of Alex Bregman, the Red Sox in the same. Let us know in the comments section what you guys think of all these headlines. Where do you go this offseason? What headline are you guys looking for next? For me, I'm looking at the candidacy of the relief pitchers. Where do they go? Trade market, what are we looking at as far as starting pitchers? When will that movement start to pick up here? When do we see another big out-of-nowhere trade that none of us were expecting? And then, of course, Alex Bregman. I think that's the big one for me, the relief market with Kirby Yates. That's where I'm looking this week. Hopefully we'll get some answers to those questions by the Saturday, Sunday, but remains to be seen. You got the New Year's celebrations tomorrow night, and then hopefully we'll get some activity towards the end of the week. But appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. Catch up on a few of these other comments here before we go into updating from Twitter, see if anything else is happening. Appreciate you joining us, Joseph. Thank you for joining us, Aaron. Thank you. Let's see here. Mike, God bless. Have a blessed New Year to you and yours. Absolutely. You and your family as well. Hopefully you guys had a great Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. I hope you guys got to enjoy the holiday season in general. Lots of fun to be had with your friends and family, and hopefully you guys got to enjoy it. New Year's, hopefully we'll be able to go over to the folks' after we do our live tomorrow evening. We'll probably do it a little bit earlier. Again, working open to close, but since it's the last day of the year, insurance really does make work 3 times busier for us on the last day of the year. And so I'll be pretty busy at work, but once I get off, I'll be coming home to do a live with you guys, discuss the latest from the MLB Hot Stove, see if there's any new rumors out there. I'm hoping for some activity so that I can go over to the house and talk some baseball with Dad. That's one of my favorite things to do. And kind of how I started this channel is just having an outlet to when I'm unable to go over and talk sports with my dad, I can still talk sports with you guys and have a release from work, have a release from everyday life. So thank you guys for making this so much fun for me. I really do appreciate it. Aaron, so Montgomery from D-backs going to the Giants. Honestly, I haven't heard that one too much. I know there were some Giants fans asking about that yesterday. Let me head over to X and just see if anything is happening. You have me wondering if there is a trade there. Okay, no. You got me wondering if Montgomery was traded. But no, I don't think he would go to the Giants primarily because, they have the reason why they would trade Montgomery is to, one, get off of the salary, and while he would be helpful to the Giants, I think there are other teams that would be able to give them something of at least a decent return back for Montgomery if they see $10 million, $15 million of that deal to where they don't have to deal him within the division. It's tough to trade within the division. I mean, you want to maximize the value whatever trade you end up doing, but it's usually a little bit tougher within the division for a player of Montgomery's stature. Lucas, do you think the Rangers can turn Jake Burger into a decent glove? No, I don't think so. I think he's always going to be a below-average glove at first base, which is why I think he's going to be platooning primarily at designated hitter with Jock Peterson. There'll be occasional times where he's going to play first base, but if you're playing him more than, say, let's call it 30 games with Jake Burger at first base, I think you're missing the boat here. Maybe 45, kind of push it a little bit further because injuries, maybe 50. But if you're counting on him for 100 games of Jake Burger at first base, your defense is really going to suffer. That pitching staff is going to have inflated ERAs because of your inability to field because of Jake Burger's deficiencies at first base. So I'd rather go with guys like Ezekiel Duran and Josh Smith and maybe an outside guy to bring in there at first base rather than Jake Burger. The times when Burger is going to be in the lineup to me are going to be late inning situations as a pinch hitter for whoever's at first base to possibly hit a homer, and then he's primarily going to be playing against left-handers when Jock Peterson needs to get out of the lineup for whatever reason. And then again, of course, injuries. Don't pivot from Montgomery. I mean, I like Montgomery, I do, but I think the Arizona Diamondbacks are going to use that money that they save on Montgomery to be able to bring in a guy like Kirby Yates or another closing option. But we'll see. Some local Baltimore media is speculating Keegan Aiken could be a starter, which I don't see. Solid reliever, but he's no Strider. I mean, for me, Baltimore continues to try to churn prospects up to the major league level, and they've gotten some decent starters out of it. Are any of them aces by any stretch of the imagination? No. They've tried and tried and tried to build a homegrown pitching staff. It hasn't worked. The Rangers have tried and tried and tried to build a homegrown pitching staff, and it didn't work. So they went out there in free agency and they bring in John Gray, they bring in Eovaldi, they bring in DeGrom, they bring in Heaney, they bring in Molly, they bring in all kinds of outside free agents to fill in the gaps that are left because their minor league system couldn't produce enough starting pitching. The same could be said with the Baltimore Orioles, except now they really need to bring in a number one to kind of get this team over the hump once it comes to October. They lose out on Corbin Burns. They're immediately a worse rotation than they were a day ago. So we'll see what they do, but the Orioles do need to add some starting pitching. Is Sasaki meeting with the Padres? I have not heard the Padres as far as having already met with him, but I do believe they have a meeting on the books. Remember, 20 teams ultimately reached out and gave a pitch to Sasaki. It sounds like several teams did have meetings. He did not specify how many teams had meetings or which ones did, but he did say quite a few of them had meetings. Players were not invited to join those meetings. They did have some video clips from players that they played at the meeting. That was done on Sasaki's turf. Now he's back in Japan. He's going to sort through some of those offers and maybe even take some more meetings. We'll see. But the next phase of this process sounds like he's going to go and visit the teams that are on his final 4 or 5 or whatever the finalist group turns out to be. Visit the teams, visit the facilities, visit with the manager, visit with the pitching coach. Kind of see what the city feels like, how he's going to fit in that culture, how the media market, all that is going to come into effect when he visits those teams. And I don't think we'll get a heads up on when he's going to be meeting with those teams in person. Why? Because he doesn't want the media involved in that process. And he's done a great job about keeping them at arm's length throughout this process so far. So I do think Sasaki will still sign between the 15th and 23rd because that's when he can maximize his value. But as far as hearing from Sasaki and his camp, as far as where he's going to sign significantly before that, I would seriously doubt it. Let's kind of catch up on some of these comments. Come on to the Harbor Sasaki. I think everybody wants him at this point. Since you're not going to talk about Montgomery, talk about how if Sasaki goes to the Padres, Cease will leave. I think Cease is likely to go anyway. They have 3 guys that are under contract this year and then free agents after the season. Michael King, Dylan Cease, and Luis Arraez. Michael King, I think, is probably the easiest for them to be able to get a contract extension with, and so I think he's probably the one that probably stays. Preller has done a great job of getting into really difficult financial situations and then quickly out of those situations. You look at the Upton brothers, you look at Craig Kimbrell, that first offseason when he really spent and went big to try to make them a contending team, they were out of it by the trade deadline. He divests himself of that situation. He gets into the Juan Soto business. It doesn't work for 2 years. He gets out of the Juan Soto business. Now he gets into Luis Ariz and into Dylan Cease. Now it looks like he's going to be getting out of the Dylan Cease and Luis Ariz business. But I would expect them to move on from Dylan Cease at this point. Sasaki, like I said, could very well go to the Padres, could very well go to the Dodgers. There's a number of teams that are still in there. Anybody claiming to be a favorite other than the Dodgers, you're smoking something. You have no information, complete guesswork. You can say, oh, we have the greatest manager, we have the greatest pitching staff, we have the greatest pitching coach, we have the greatest facilities, we're in a smaller market, we're in a bigger market, we're ready to win a World Series, we're not ready to win a World Series, we're here to grow, we can spend money and continue to build our team. We won't do those things. You're the finishing piece to push us over the top. All of those conversations are moot. He's the one that's going to be making the decision, and he wants this process to be private. So if you think there's anybody else besides the Dodgers considered as a favorite, I hear a lot of Padres fans considering themselves a favorite because of the market size issue, media footprint, all those types of issues. I don't buy it. I think that's pure speculation, and Joel Wolfe made a point of saying as much in his interview today. So like I said, he did play with Ohtani and Yamamoto in the World Baseball Classic. They win it. Dodgers are the prohibitive favorites right now to win the World Series again. And the money is equal across the board, so you're not going to say, oh, well, he could go to the Mariners and make more money. No, all money is pretty much equal across the board. You might have an extra $250,000 laying around because of compensation pick or whatever the case may be, or you acquire international bonus pool money, but that's not going to be the deciding factor for Sasaki. He wants to be one of the greatest ever to do it, and it sounds like he's going to make sure he goes to a team that gives him the greatest shot to do so. So while the Dodgers are the favorite, I would still say a lot of teams have a really good chance to bring him in. I wouldn't say those chances are zero for the other teams. For instance, the Rangers, Padres, the Giants, and Mariners, I give probably 10-15% chance between all those four teams. I'd probably say the Dodgers around 75% chance, and then the rest of the league kind of qualifies for the rest of what's left of the percentage there. Roy, if no one thinks Ohtani, Yamamoto, or Darvish are talking to line or Sasaki are in denial, maybe not present in meetings, but guaranteed phone calls are being made, I'm sure they are. For instance, the Rangers bring in Higashioka. He speaks the language, and I'm sure he's already made a call there as well. But when the agent is the face of this negotiation, as much as he has been, tells me that teams are being very respectful about how Sasaki wants this to be handled. If, say, the Rangers were really trying to push this thing across the finish line, you know, the one thing you don't want to do is to do something that would jeopardize your ability to bring him in. So, for instance, if it wasn't okay for Chris Young to come out and say, hey, yeah, we've met with him, but that's pretty much all I can say, then he wouldn't have said it. If it was okay for Sasaki to say, hey, this went on, really liked our discussion, I would have a lot more doubts about their ability to bring him in. Tells me this process could be a little bit, or could go on a little bit, and may not be done by the 15th, but it will be done by the 23rd. So again, this is going to be, we're going to have to deal with the long haul here. I think there's going to be more teams in it, more surprising teams in it than we originally expected. And I think that's the way Sasaki wants it. He wants the best of the best offers on the table for him from all of Major League Baseball. And he's going to take his pick, and he's earned that right as an international free agent, especially when you consider he's giving up $200 million plus to come over now, as opposed to waiting a couple years. Let's catch up on a few of these comments here. Sasaki offline. Facts. Mets are adding 2 more bats. I do think they'll add at least 1 more bat. Thank you, Saint Vintage. Hit a home run on the like button. Couldn't agree more. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like button, we're at 36 right now when we have close to 70 watching. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. And if you're new here, join the team. We're going to bring you live content every single night during MLB Hot Stove season and during the regular season as well. Make sure you join us and enjoy the baseball content. Let us know where you're watching from. We got quite the community out there, and we try to catch as many of these comments as we can. If you want to support the channel, we'd welcome that as well. Appreciate you guys very much. Cowboys Nation, Heaney would be a solid 2-3 if he could go 6 consistently. I don't think that's really in the cards for Heaney. I think he's more about stuff, and when he's on, he's probably going to give you 6 or 7. When he's not, he might give you 2 or 3. That's the variability there. I think Heaney's more of a 3-4 in a rotation rather than a 2-3. Justin, I see the D-backs getting a closer, Kirby Yates. I do think the Diamondbacks will add someone. They certainly are interested in Kirby Yates. I haven't heard anything as far as how far they're in there for that discussion, or if it is contingent upon them moving a contract off of their books to be able to free up some money to get it done. The question when they brought in Corbin Burns was how much money are they going to have to continue to build out this roster? At least that's the question I have. Reminds me a lot of the way the Zach Greinke deal worked out. They ended up spending the money on Greinke. It didn't have much money left for anything else. Look at the Colorado Rockies and how they use Nolan Arenado. They give all that money to Nolan Arenado. Arenado says, wait, you're not going to continue to spend? Rockies are like, no, we gave it all to you. So he's like, peace, I'm out of here, trade me. They eat some of the money to at least save on the money for Nolan Arenado, and then immediately go and give it to Chris Bryant, who's immediately injured. Just poor planning, poor management, poor front office work there by the Colorado Rockies from top to bottom. Just do not appreciate how they handled that third base position at all in regards to Arenado and Chris Bryant. You look at the way things could work out for Kirby Yates and with Corbin Burns and the Arizona Diamondbacks could be a very similar situation there as well. Heaney is a 4-5, let's be honest. I don't think he's a 5. I think he's more of a 3-4. When he's on, he can pitch as well as a number 2, but you're not expecting that every single time out. The reason why you're bringing him, or why you bring him back if you're the Rangers, is because you want to use that stuff for, say, 2, 3, 4 innings in a postseason, and then piggyback him with another starting pitcher who can go 2, 3, 4 innings in a postseason game. For instance, Kumar Rocker is just getting his feet wet at the major league level. You love the stuff that he has. The strikeout numbers look really good. Run prevention looks good as well. You bring in Andrew Heaney. Then you have your Game 1 starter, if healthy, of course, Jacob deGrom. Game 2, Nathan Eovaldi. Game 3 could very well be Andrew Heaney and Kumar Rocker kind of piggybacking each other in Game 3. John Gray, I think, would be better as a number 4 at that point. You're not going to use Dane Dunning. They haven't used Dane Dunning in the postseason as well. You have Jack Leiter as well. I'm not sure if he's ready for the moment. Tyler Mahle pitches like a number 2 when healthy, but he hasn't been healthy in almost 2 years at this point. So that's a big question mark. So for me, bringing in Heaney, I think would be a great thing for them towards the back end of their rotation, give them some depth. But I think that's highly unlikely at this point. I think teams that are still looking for starting pitching value him more on the market, looking at the Chicago Cubs, the Atlanta Braves, the Toronto Blue Jays, teams like that still need to bring in some starting pitching. The San Francisco Giants come to mind as well as better fits anyway for Andrew Heaney. As good as a player as he was as for the Texas Rangers the last couple of years, as consistent as he was from an availability standpoint, didn't really get injured with the Texas Rangers. That was his not coming into Texas when they signed him to that 2-year deal. He really kind of showed the durability there. And I believe he was the Rangers Pitcher of the Year, if I remember correctly, at least for innings in 23, or was it, no, 24. Kirby Yates was there as well, but Heaney was a better Ranger than I think anybody expected him to be. The Expos moving to Toronto sent us from a mid-market to a small market still annoys me. Expos didn't move to Toronto, though. That was the Blue Jays. Expos became the Washington Nationals, and as far as the Orioles are concerned, I mean, I get why you don't like the Nationals. The TV market issues there, from what I've heard, are an absolute nightmare. But Expos became the Nationals. Couldn't consistently go 6. Yes. Let's see here. Got quite a few comments all of a sudden. Trying to see if I can catch up here. Welcome in, Yassine, Nando, Mike. Appreciate you joining us once again. He's a lefty. Dean Kramer. Okay. Dean Kramer is again number 3. He's probably more of a 4-5 in that rotation as far as I'm concerned. Do you see the Cardinals trading Brendan Donovan? I do not. Liberty, if Angels get Santander, who else the Angels can get that would make you think they're at least wild card situation? Let me be blunt. No one. 0. Not a chance. Not happening? No. The Angels, I don't hate the team. I love Ron Washington. I love the pieces that they were able to grow with last year. I think they made the first steps to becoming a respectable team again. But they're still a long way away from being a contending team for a World Series. They're a long way away from winning a pennant. They're a long way away from winning the division. They're a long way away from winning a wild card spot. So, as much as Santander might raise the floor You're not winning 80 games next year by bringing in Santander and another piece. It's just not happening. Just let me put it this way. The rotation that you have, how does it stack up to any of the other rotations in the division, including the Sacramento A's or Oakland A's or whatever you want to call them? Worst? Second worst? How does the lineup fare in comparison to all the other teams in the division? Astros are better. Rangers are better. Mariners on paper are neck and neck with me, at least for the LA Angels as far as their offense. Oakland is by far a better offense than the Angels. What about the bullpen? Where is this team looking to improve? How realistic is it for another piece to even come in there to begin with? Say they go out there and say, hey, there's a real opportunity for Pete Alonso. So we'll bring him in. He'll be our DH. Santander will play in the outfield. We'll bring two really good offensive weapons. And now we've got Kikuchi as our one in our rotation. Kyle Hendricks is there to help some of the young guys. Let's get this thing going. How many games can we win? Less than 80. You ain't competing for a wild card. Sorry to be so rough on you Angels fans, but come on now. Let's be realistic about our chances. I know we want to be optimistic every single season, but this is what happens when you go to a retooling or rebuilding process. You don't short-circuit it by signing guys like this. Signing Kikuchi could short-circuit your chance to get back to contention quicker. This may ultimately rebuild or cause you to go into another rebuild after the one you're currently trying to get out of. You're not even through the first year entirely. You lost Shohei Ohtani. I get it. It hurts. You want to try to win in the postseason. You haven't been there in years. I get it. Moreno wants you to get there. I get the Blue Jays. Ownership wants them to get to the postseason and win. But let's be realistic. They have zero, read my lips, zero chance of getting a wild card spot. If they get one, I'll eat my words, but I don't see it. Their rotation is at best fourth in that division. Their lineup is at best fourth in that division. How many teams go in the wild card? 1, 2, 3. So let's say the AL West gets all 3 wild cards. You might be a borderline wild card team if by some miracle the other divisions completely implode and you somehow play above your head and win 90, 91, 92 games. But even then, is that realistic? Is that even plausible? You got to think the Orioles are going to be good in the 162. We worry about them when they get to October. But during 162, they're going to be a darn good team. Yankees are going to be a darn good team during the regular season. I get it. They're in a tough division. Maybe they beat each other up, but both of those teams are going to be well above 90 wins. Red Sox are a vastly improved team. Say they get Alex Bregman, you'd have to put them in the conversation to win a wild card spot. You go to the Central. Guardians are still a very good team. We just saw how well they played during the 162 last year. Did they have the pieces to overcome it in October? No. But they were still great in the 162. Detroit Tigers, say they continue to build off of what they just had last year without Alex Bregman. I'd still say on paper they're a far superior team to the Angels even if they brought in Anthony Santander. Say they bring in Alex Bregman or add a closer like Kirby Yates. They're light years ahead of where the Angels are right now. You look at another team in that division, the Kansas City Royals. You're not sniffing a wild card spot. Have I made myself clear enough? I feel like I've been really hard on you Angels fans, but I just think I can't hammer this point home far enough. I mean, just look at how they continued to manage that team when they had 2 of the top 3 players in the sport and couldn't manage a postseason run. You're saying you have a chance to win to get a wild card spot with Anthony Santander as your best player? And yes, Mike Trout is a declining player at this point. Injuries, availability matter. Santander is going to be better than what they have in that outfield right now. He will be far more available than Mike Trout. He will be more impactful to that team than Mike Trout because he's going to be there day in and day out. Because he's available for that team. Mike Trout is a better player at this point, yes. I'm not saying Santander is a better player than Mike Trout, but his availability makes him more valuable to the Angels at this point if they did bring him in. Tells you how little talent is really there. They have some good young pieces they're trying to build with Shanuel at first base, Neto at shortstop. Those players are not ready for prime time yet. They're nowhere close. And even if you did bring in 2 top flight hitters in the lineup, bringing in Alonso, bringing in Santander, you're still not sniffing a wild card spot. Say you bring in another starting pitcher like an Andrew Heaney, a Pivetta, you trade for Dylan Cease. Are you getting closer? Yeah, you're getting closer. But your talent is still beneath all of the other teams in your division, besides maybe the Sacramento A's. And their offense is still better than anything you're going to muster next season. Their bullpen is going to be better than anything you're going to muster next season. Your rotation, if you go the trade route, you don't have the pieces to do it first, but that's a point for another day. Say you did go after one of these guys like Dylan Cease and overpay, to bring him in as far as prospects. You say the heck with it, shove all the chips to the center like they did for Ohtani in his final year at the deadline, and then 3 weeks later have to abandon ship on that plan. Say you decide to do it. Are you guaranteed a wild card spot? No. There's no chance that they have to get there, so why are we trying to horseshoe them in there? If you're an Angels fan, why aren't you angry at them short-circuiting a rebuild process here? The worst thing you can do when you've entered a rebuild or retooling process is short-circuit that process. Just look at the way the Houston Astros and Chicago Cubs did it in the 2013, 2014, 2015 range. The way the White Sox are doing it right now. They're doing it exactly the way you should be doing it if you're trying to quote-unquote tank. We don't like tanking in professional sports. But at a certain point, you have to try to get better talent on your roster. What's the one way to do that, guaranteed? Through the draft. Now, you have to develop it. You have to get better. It can't go on endlessly for years and years and years. At a certain point, you have to invest. The Rangers did that by bringing in Corey Seager and Marcus Semien and getting the ball rolling. The next offseason, they bring in Eovaldi, DeGrom, and all those other players that really help them push them over the top and win a World Series. They are the exception to that process, not the rule. And you just saw how, 1 year of career years from all those guys gets them to win a World Series, but then they immediately regress back to the mean. Injuries did play a part there, but they were under 500. Could the Rangers get back to that level again? Absolutely. But the Angels aren't even in the same class as where the Rangers were when they made those decisions to add Seager, to add Semien, to add DeGrom, to add Eovaldi. They had some good prospects coming, position player prospects. You look at Ezekiel Duran, Josh Young at third base, Josh Smith in the infield as well. They made the trade for Nathaniel Lowe. Leota Tavares was thought of as a very good glove in the outfield. They got really lucky with Adolis Garcia. The Angels are nowhere close to that conversation. Sorry, Angels fans, just time to be real with your owner. Time for Perry Manassian to say, hey, it was terrible what we did with Shohei Ohtani. You forced me to go ahead and try to go all out and bring him in. The only reason, if I'm Perry Manassian, the only reason I would have even stayed is if you guaranteed me complete and total autonomy if it didn't work, which it didn't. I get it. Artie Moreno is still the owner. But at a certain point, you got to throw your hands up in the air and say, hey, this is not right for the long-term growth of our franchise, and turn and pivot to something else. All right. Let's try to catch up on a few of these other comments. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Holly finally got home from work. Thanks for the great content on my 30-ish minute drive home. Glad I could help you out. Hopefully you were driving safe, though. Don't let us, interrupt your drive, though. But appreciate you guys joining us. Nando, no one is on the plane to Toronto except Rich Hill. Well, I'll put it this way. Toronto does have a lot of money to spend. Somebody's going to take their money. It's not going to be top-flight free agents, and they're going to have to win this year in order for their manager to stay, for their front office to stay. And even then, they're going to lose Bichette. They're going to lose Vladdy Jr. in free agency after the season, if I had to bet on it right now. Cleveland commentators have criticized Naylor for his conditioning and fielding. Is there truth to these comments? To some degree. I wouldn't really worry about it, though. He's an impact bat. That's what he is. He's not known as a great defender. He's never going to be a, plus defender. He's never going to be a Christian Walker defensively. And you're not asking him to be. You're asking him to be an impact bat in the middle of that lineup, and that's what he's going to do for you out there in Arizona. Will you have to substitute him in the late game stages for fielding replacements? Possibly. But you're getting him for that bat. He's got 1 year left on that deal. You're trying to push for a World Series this year. You make the addition of Naylor. You make the addition of Corbin Burns. You're still looking at the relief market, Kirby Yates, etc. And you're trying to push your chips to the center. We'll see what happens there. Roy, why don't we have any? We don't have any Japanese players, so Sasaki can be the focus. Every team is going to have a good chance to bring in Sasaki. Some have better chances than other. Completely agree with all your points on Sasaki. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Dennis Bration, he met with the Dodgers to discuss what number he wants. I don't think that was the conversation. If it was, I think he would already say, made my decision, I'll sign on the 15th. Thank you guys for the interest. But I don't think that was legitimately the case, though. Drew, welcome in. Yassine, if you believe Soto will sign with the Yankees, that's I don't know about that one, Roy. Let's be a little nicer to him. I know I'm missing quite a few comments here, so let me try to catch up here. Caleb, thoughts on who the Jays might sign as a closer? I personally think Estevez would be a good option. I think it'd be a great option. Do I think they get him? No. I think there's too many teams that are going to be contending teams that are looking for a closer that will pay him more. The Blue Jays, I think, will pay him a pretty penny, but it's not going to be a great situation for him, I do believe. I think other teams, for instance, say the Rangers miss on Kirby Yates. I think they could pivot to Estevez. I wouldn't say the Phillies are completely out on that one either. I think a team like the Blue Jays probably gets a guy like Kenley Jansen, maybe a guy like Finnegan to be their closer more than anybody else. Let's see here. Cowboys Nation, you think Marlins would deal Cabrera? Not sure. Oh, the pitcher Cabrera. For some reason, when you said Cabrera, I was thinking like Miggy Cabrera. I'm like, that was like years ago, man. What are you talking about? The pitcher Cabrera? I think that's a possibility. I think they're going to wait until the trade deadline to move a player like him, though. Nando, Michael just roasted the Angels franchise. I mean, they deserve it. I mean, period. They absolutely deserve it. The way they handled Shohei Ohtani, the way they completely are just, how do I put this, charlatans. What do you call them? Not witch doctors. What's the one I'm thinking of? Where they're just kind of like charlatans, snake oil salesmen. That's what they are. They do that to their fan base every single year. They say, "Oh yeah, we're better than ever. We're going to make the postseason with the two greatest players in Major League Baseball. You know, Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. We're there. Oh, we didn't make it last year, but this move is why we're going to win. We bring in Anthony Rendon. Oh, your pitching was the problem. Why did you go for a hitter? I don't know, but he's going to help. Did it get you to the postseason? No, but we're going to continue to add another hitter. And then another. Did you address your starting pitching? We brought in Thor. Did that work? No. We're going to go after Dylan Bundy. Did that work? No. Just the Angels continue to do that to their fan base, and if I was an Angels fan, I'd be a little offended by how they treat me as an Angels fan now. I told you guys I'm a baseball fan. I want to see all teams make smart baseball decisions. Does that mean they have to agree with me? No. Does that mean I have to think of everything for those teams? No. They're paid millions of dollars to come up with the best rosters they possibly can and to win on the field, to deal with the finances behind the scenes that we don't even know about. I get it. It's a tough job. I'm an armchair quarterback, as they say. But even I can see things are being handled very poorly with the Los Angeles Angels. Shohei Ohtani saw the same thing. That's why he left and went to the Los Angeles Dodgers and immediately wins a World Series and MVP when he's not even pitching this year on a team that was decimated by injuries that had 3 good starters. Just come on, man. Angels, do better. Angels fans deserve better. Baseball fans deserve better than what the Angels have put out there from their ownership, from their front office group for years now. And stop short-circuiting your progress to get back to relevancy. There's no way you can justify going after Santander, Alonso, any of these other pieces because they're not going to make you better in the long run. You're going to short-circuit your success, and that means you're not going to win in the long run. You may be able to get a playoff berth out of it in, say, 3 years if you continue to make additions to this roster, but I just don't see it. Free agents aren't going to want to go there because they don't see the plan there because there isn't one. It's just big names. Sign here. Sign this check. It's a big check. Thank you. And that's what Santander would be this offseason to the Angels. Sorry to keep harping on it, but my goodness. Baseball deserves better. Angels fans deserve better. Woo-wee. The Angels are going nowhere. They're doing a half-blank rebuild. Not trading Ohtani for prospects. Literally sealed the casket for at least 3 to 5 years. Honestly, when they made that move, when they made the decision to trade more prospects from their system for rentals, when you knew Ohtani was likely leaving after the season, I don't think it's a 3-year rebuild we were talking about. I think it's a 5-year rebuild. That's how few prospects they really have. They push guys up that were just drafted up to the major league level because they had no other top prospects to play. Where's the competition? Where's their path to earning it at the big league level? You look at the way the Texas Rangers have kept Justin Foscue, Ezekiel Duran, Josh Smith down until they were ready to prove themselves at the big league level. They have competition for those spots. They're not guaranteed when they're rookies to get a spot on the major league roster. You have to earn it. Most other franchises who do it successfully do it the same way. You got to earn your spot there. You got to take somebody else's job. You look at the way the Rangers are handling their bullpen this year. Walter Pennington was the big addition at the trade deadline that they got from Michael Lorenzen. Jacob Latz had a good first half of the year, struggled in this last half of the year. Are either of those guys right now guaranteed a spot in their bullpen starting next year? No, they're going to have to earn it. They're going to have to outperform Sean Armstrong to be able to get a roster spot, and then maybe another guy in addition to that. The Rangers gave away a major league contract to a guy who probably shouldn't be one of the major league guys in that bullpen this year. But he's better than what they had last year is the point that the Rangers are making. And you're going to have to beat out this guy who has experience, who can handle those tough situations better than a rookie usually can in order to crack that bullpen to make the opening day roster. The Angels didn't do that with Neto. They didn't do that with Shanuel. And I think their organization has suffered for it in addition to the moves that they made during Ohtani's tenure. They're going to have to rebuild this thing from the ground up, no shortcuts, and Santander. My point is, that would be a shortcut, and I don't like it. I wouldn't want, as an Angels fan, for us to make that move. As a baseball fan, I don't want them to make that move. But smart baseball decisions would say sign short-term deals, trade those guys away at the deadline, allow those young guys to come up in the second half of the year that are ready, and allow them to play, get their feet wet at the major league level. Then, next year, you see how the growth is with your young players. You sign a couple more guys, 1-year deals, trade away the pieces that don't work out, keep the ones that work out for the long run, and then you continue to build the roster from within. Draft really well. Develop and invest in your development process. Stop doing it the short circuit way of spending $20 million on a number 4 starter to be your ace. Stop spending $20 million over 5 years on a guy who's normally a number 4, 5, or 6 hitter on a contending team. Now he's going to be your quote-unquote best player when Mike Trout isn't there. Doesn't scream success, though, if you're a baseball fan. All right, let's check out a few of these other comments here. Welcome in Sergeant Hayes. I'm amazed the Angels still have fans. Every baseball team, even when they go through a rough patch, is going to have fans. But I can understand how Angels fans would feel mistreated and want to go elsewhere, but they're still going to be fans. Even the A's, through this whole deal with the ownership group there, still have fans. Nando, easy pickings, kind of true, my friend. Let's see here. Nando might speed spring training games. Okay. Neil, I don't know about that one. Jordan, welcome in. Castillo getting moved. I would say that's pretty likely at this point. There's enough interest in Luis Castillo. I would expect the Mariners to try to offload his salary. Remember, Mariners are stuck with a $15 million self-imposed budget to try to improve that organization, at least on the offensive side of things. Best rotation there in Mariners history is not going to be able to make it to a second season, so we'll see what happens. But as far as Castillo, the Cubs, the Boston Red Sox, Baltimore Orioles, and several other teams, including his old team, the Cincinnati Reds, have at least kicked the tires on a trade there. With the Mariners looking for offensive additions, if Bregman goes to Boston, I think we could very well see Castillo be traded to Boston very quickly because they would be getting 2 offensive pieces and still have some money left to go into free agency and add 1 more hitter to that lineup. Honestly, I would like that move if I'm the Mariners. They need offense. Maybe they trade him to the Baltimore Orioles. I like to trade for Baltimore because they need a number 1. Castillo's kind of a pseudo number 1, still can fill that role, or at least fake it enough for them to have a chance in a postseason series. For the Mariners, they would possibly get Mountcastle out of it and maybe a prospect or 2. Like it for them as well, and they save the money on Castillo. So we'll see what happens, but Castillo I do expect to be moved. Let's see here. Welcome in Jesse. Everybody give him a thumbs up and subscribe to his channel and set your notifications on for new videos. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jesse. I really appreciate your support. If you guys are new here, hit that like and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it. When we started this video, we were literally 1 subscriber away from hitting our goal for the year. Tomorrow we'll kind of have a celebration because I'm pretty sure we hit it during this live. And want to thank all of you guys for joining us. We've gained almost 500. That's right. 500 subscribers as a small channel. That is a huge amount. in just 1 month. We haven't even gotten a full month here, and we've gained almost 500 total subscribers. Just absolutely incredible the amount of support you guys have given us. Smash that like button and hit that subscribe. It really does help us out. If you wouldn't mind following us over on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network as well. But make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. It means a lot to us. Thank you guys very much for all your support. I know some of you guys, this chat was getting away from me for a minute there as I was kind of going on about the Angels. But if you guys want to support the channel, send us a super chat. I know some of you guys have done so in the past. Those things mean a lot to us. Still kind of growing as a channel, getting this thing going the way we want it to go. And I think we finally found our rhythm here. We're going to be live with you guys every single night, not just during the hot stove season, but every single night from here on out, covering Major League Baseball for you. Rain, sleet, shine, whatever the mailman phrase is, that's us. Every day you're going to see us live here, so make sure you turn on your notifications and join us every single night. Thank you guys for your support. Jesse, Cowboys Nation, Roy, Randy, thank you guys for joining us. Mike as well. Let's kind of wrap up our conversation here. Check out the last few comments here. And if you have any questions, send them now. We'll see if we can answer those questions. We'll check in on X, see if anything is happening. And then we'll probably call it a night there as well. But let's see here. Smash the like button, sub, like the... I like that one. That's a lot of smashing. Angels are getting most airtime since 2014 playoffs. Yes, they are. I gave them a pretty good ribbing, probably, was about this time last year at the trade deadline as well. 6 months before that. If you guys want to go back in our archives about a year ago and see how I absolutely obliterated the Angels for their handling of Shohei Ohtani. If you guys think this was hard, check out those videos. I was prolific in those. I remember that quite vividly. This is the most relevant Angels news. Yes. No Mountcastle. That'd be a tough loss for the Orioles. I would say that. But you got to give to get, and pitching right now is more paramount. They have enough offense, even with losing Mountcastle, that they should be able to weather the storm and have a very successful offensive team even still. Mike, is that Jordan Luplow, the former Diamondback? No, I don't think so, unfortunately. I remember that as well. I think he was with the Twins at some point as well. Lucas, the Mavs game is so depressing. I mean, they're without Luka for a month. They have Najee on a suspension. I think PJ is, I can't remember if he's back or if this is the game he served, but I can't remember. And then they have so many guys out of the lineup due to injury right now. It's going to be rough for a little bit here. But once they get their guys back and healthy, I'm not worried about it. As long as they get one of the top 6 seeds by the end of the year, if you're a Maverick fan, just enjoy it. With Luka going down for about a month, he's going to take some time to get back and healthy, and his conditioning back once he's healthy as well. But the Mavericks are going to be just fine. They'll have enough time, even after the trade deadline, to be able to get on a nice roll like they did at the end of the year last year. I think they'll get one of the top 6 seeds, and they'll be all about matchups just like it was last year. Seeding didn't really matter as long as you were in the top 6. It was about matchups, and the Mavericks really got good matchups throughout their entire postseason run. And they made the most of it, getting all the way to the NBA Finals, where, again, matchups mattered, and the Boston Celtics ran them out of the gym. All right, Jordan, I remember those videos last year about Shohei. Yeah, Jordan, you've been with us for quite a long time, so, you would remember those videos about Shohei. I blasted Perry Manassian. I blasted the way they handled the trade deadline. I blasted them the way they went about their free agency, saying, oh, yeah, we're going to bring back Shohei. And then by the afternoon, the day Shohei agrees to sign with the Dodgers, the signs are already down at the ballpark. You can't tell me you didn't expect to lose him when your maintenance department already had a plan to remove the signs of Shohei because you expected him to sign with another team. Come on, man. You expected him to leave at that point. Just horrible all the way around. It's former Blue Jay Jordan Luplow. Former Blue Jay Jordan Luplow. Do we really have a MLBer here? That'd be fantastic. I would love that. Alrighty, Cowboys Nation, Happy New Year's, fellas. Wishing y'all health and prosperity in 25. Appreciate the contact, as always. Thank you, Cowboys Nation. I really appreciate you guys' support. Happy New Year, everybody. Hopefully you've enjoyed the holiday season. We'll be back live with an earlier live tomorrow. So make sure you guys join us. We'll be live probably around 7 o'clock. I'm going to say tentatively because, like I said, last day of the year is prolific for us at work with insurance. We get out at 5, but since it's the last day of the year, we might stay open for an extra hour or 2. Hopefully not, but we'll probably be live around 7 if we do actually close at 5. If it runs long, we'll probably be closer to the 8, 9 o'clock hour. With everybody staying up for New Year's, I'm sure we'll have quite an audience. So make sure you guys join us. Hopefully we'll have some new news around Sasaki, most notably Bregman and Yates, most likely. Maybe some updates on Santander as well. Luca, Kyrie, Clay, Najee are all out, but I wake up at 5 a.m. on vacation to watch this. Yeah, that's kind of rough as a Mavs fan. Caleb, I know the odds are that Alonso will go back to the Mets, but how big of a pull would it be if the Blue Jays sign him and make Naylor the DH? I really wouldn't like that if I'm a Diamondbacks fan, mainly because you have two guys that should be as a DH on that roster. I get it, you're trying to go all out for 25. I guess that's the thought process there. If you bring in Alonso, then you have a long-term answer at first base by having Alonso there. Naylor could be lost in free agency at the end of the year anyway. So I guess that would be the kind of the thought process with or what they did with Corbin Burns. Kind of a similar thought there, but I don't see where they would get the money from it. Remember, the biggest contract they had signed before this deal was for Zach Greinke, a very similar deal what they just gave to Corbin Burns. Greinke got 6 for $204, I believe. Burns got 6 for $210. I don't think they have that much money left to be able to play in that Pete Alonso market. Alonso, I'm expecting to get 6,150 at this point. We've heard markets originally beginning this offseason around 125. Rosenthal got the market up as high as 180 when all the teams were still looking for first baseman. Now those teams have kind of made their decision. That number sounds like it's coming back down a little bit to that 150 mark. Nando, the Blue Jays got to trade Vladdy Jr. by the deadline. If they don't have an extension, I would think they do, as long as they're out of it. If they're not out of it, if say they're a game or two out of the wild card, I think they're going to try to buy at the deadline and do what the Angels should not have done and bring in other pieces. I think that the Blue Jays should do something very similar here and ultimately try to trade away Vladdy rather than try to bring in additional pieces. Jordan, no, sorry, that's not the real Luke Blow. I would get fired with the stuff I say about the front office. That's funny. Alrighty, well, I appreciate you guys joining us. Jordan, welcome back. Thank you for joining us once again. You've been with us for quite a while. VPCZX, I was wondering where you were. I hadn't heard you comment so far today, but thank you for that super chat. Any Blue Jays updates, and Happy New Year's, everybody. Blue Jays updates is that they obviously finished runner-up to Corbin Burns. Didn't sound like that he really wanted to go there at all. Other updates is that Bregman is really down to the Red Sox and Tigers. Tigers are a little far apart on money. Red Sox sound like they're there, but it sounds like his preference might be to go to the Detroit Tigers. That leaves the Blue Jays as one of the favorites for Anthony Santander. That's one of the updates today. The Angels, if you haven't been paying attention to our video, I invite you to rewind to the very beginning and throughout this entire video. I've really been going in on the Angels today about their how they're viewed as a favorite now for the Anthony Santander. Just absolutely ugly the way they have done things, but that's your Blue Jays update, is that they are one of the favorites there for Anthony Santander officially now that it's being reported as such. I've been busy in dealing with a second-degree burn. Ouch! That sounds painful. I mean, it's the winter, but you can still get a sunburn, my guy. Sunblock. Long sleeve shirt, something. Take care of yourself. We had someone recovering from an accident earlier today. Take care of yourselves, my friends. I mean, I enjoy y'all in my comment section, but come on now. Let's take care of ourselves. Alrighty, Vinny, welcome in. Happy New Year. Welcome back, by the way. It's been a minute since I've seen you in our chat. Appreciate you joining us once again. My dad calls me Back Martinez because I play the show 24 a lot. Okay, alrighty. Buck Martinez, I like that. Alrighty. Yeah, it is Buck Martinez. Alright. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We'll be live with you guys again tomorrow. Look for us around 7 o'clock if things go well for me at work. I'll be earlier tomorrow night and probably have a little bit longer of a live. Had a little longer of one today because we're only doing one live today, so I want to make sure I took some time with you guys and went over everything. Let me head over to X real quick. See if anything is happening there. Update the page. And absolutely nothing there. Jim Poden says, for what it's worth, Roki Sasaki's favorite player growing up was Yoshihara Tanaka, Yankees, and considers Yu Darvish his godfather. Not that it means anything, but both teams are in the mix. Interesting notes, and I think that's all it is, interesting. I think he's going to go to the best team for him either way. I don't think any of these personal connections are necessarily going to influence him as much as we originally thought. I still think the Dodgers are the favorite here. I would say they're less so than, say, 24 hours ago, based on the interview we saw with Joel Wolfe's agent today. But I'd still say they're the favorite. They are the team that's expected to go to the World Series and win it. They did just win the World Series. He's got 2 players already on the team that he's comfortable with, even though he's not inviting players to be a part of these meetings. That is part of the factor there. Media market, though, does matter. There are other teams that have great facilities, great managers, great pitching coaches that might be able to utilize him a little bit better. But the Dodgers have a great track record of identifying weaknesses in a pitcher and helping him maximize that potential. That's got to be something that'd be great for him to start off his career with, going to the Dodgers. But remains to be seen where he ultimately signs. I think there's 20 teams that Joel Wolfe said had reached out and gave a pitch to him. He took meetings with several of those 20 teams, not all of them. And now he's going to have meetings with teams at their home sites over the next couple of weeks. And then he'll make his decision between the 15th and 23rd. Alrighty, let's go ahead and call it a night there. I do have to get to work very early in the morning. I still got to cook as well tonight. Gonna have a potluck, so I got to create some food for that as well. Appreciate you guys joining us. Happy New Year, everybody. Appreciate all the support, and y'all have a great one. Happy New Year, everyone.